The South is on the rise. The AFC South, that is. They've got a lot of young, exciting quarterbacks in their division, and many teams can go in many directions. Do they have multiple playoff representatives? Do 3 teams make the playoffs? Do only the Texans reign supreme thanks to their offseason additions? We're going to answer those questions today with our AFC South record predictions. Starting things off with the lowly Tennessee Titans. And I know my co-host is not fond of the Titans. He thinks they are going to be one of, if not the worst teams in football. I don't want to poison the well, but I just got that feeling based off the stuff you said this offseason. I don't think they're going to be that bad. They have upgraded their receiving room substantially. Will Levis is getting into his second season with a better offensive line, with not a better running game by any stretch of the imagination, but a running game which demands more of a focus on the passing attack. The safety blanket is gone. We are going to have to find out how good Will Levis is this season. I think he's going to be all right. I think he's going to be fine. He's going to be an NFL quarterback. I don't think he stinks the joint up. I also don't think he shatters any records and blows everyone's socks off. Their defense, still going to be good. Probably not that great. Obviously, new head coach, fired a far superior coach in both of our opinions. There may be some organizational issues there, but I think the Titans are going to be all right. Not horrible, not great, all right. 6-11 feels fair. Bad team? Yeah, there are going to be bad teams in the NFL, but not some putrescent pile of dog excrement. They're going to be fine.
Cut that record in half, and then you have a accurate and right prediction. And this prediction is going to be heavily based on the fact I just do not believe in the Titans organization as a whole, in their ownership. I think they are currently riddled with dysfunction, and I think a lot of their offseason moves show that. They gave Calvin Ridley, I think, way too much money at this point in his career. He was very good last season, but he did not exactly light the world on fire. And then they go add Tyler Boyd. Derrick Henry, of course, wants to go play for a team that will actually contend, but they lose the identity of their offense, and they replace him with Tony Pollard, who seemed to lack any explosivity last season, not what we've seen from him in years past. So they don't have the identity of their offense. Adding some of those veteran receivers feels like a desperate attempt to try and make Will Levis work. You have a first-year head coach in Brian Callahan. I don't exactly know what to think of that, but all those factors combined, first-year head coach, I don't believe in the ownership. The identity of their offense left. They have a second-year quarterback who was not very successful in year one, not overly accurate quarterback. I have the Titans going 3-14. I don't think they're going to be good.
There's also some other stuff I didn't address initially, and you are going to address because it makes the Titans look good. They got J.C. Latham, who will be an upgraded tackle. They got Skoronski, who's going to be an very good guard going into year 2, I believe. That's half a solid offensive line. That's an identity. That's someplace you can run the ball where you can have faith in your blind side. You're not going to get absolutely crushed. Their line was terrible last season. It's going to be better this year. They added Snead to the secondary. The secondary was putrid last season. It's going to be better this season. They've still got that big star up front. And those receivers, it's a desperate attempt to make Will Levis work. Yeah, they're still upgrades over what they had. There's still a big improvement at the wide receiver position. It was D-Hop and you and me out there last season. Tyler Boyd and Calvin Ridley may not be worth the money they're getting paid. We're not the ones paying them, so I don't see why we care. But they are clearly better than where the Titans were at. I don't get how you can say 3 wins.
You're not a big fan of Westbrook-Ikhine?
Not a big fan of Westbrook-Ikhine. Not to disrespect Westbrook-Ikhine by any means. I know he's in the audience out there somewhere. We support you tremendously. We would just not like you catching balls for either of our favorite teams. Speaking of catching balls, the Indianapolis Colts have a fascinating receiving room. They got Alec Pierce. Who else is in that room?
Alec Pierce. That's the one name you remember from the Colts.
They got Michael Pittman.
Adonai Mitchell.
They got
Josh Downs.
Look, Josh Downs.
But Alec Pierce was the one you remember.
I wonder why.
Okay.
I'm not going to say the joke I want to say. You'd have to cut from the hoodie.
I think they got it.
Strike that from the recording. They got Michael Pittman. They got Adonai Mitchell. They got Alec Pierce. They got Mo Alley Cox. I think he's still on the Colts. And most importantly, they've got Anthony Richardson. And I'm not a big AR-15 guy. Gun violence is bad, and the only violence Richardson commits is on the ground because he has some big issues as a passer. The accuracy clearly wasn't there in year 1. But more concerning about that is the fact, or about Richardson, is the fact he has added 10 pounds. And you look at his injury history, it's prevalent. He got hurt twice in 4 games. That's because he took hits, wasn't willing to slide. And it wasn't like, oh, if he was a little bit more muscular, he wouldn't have got injured. It was falling on his shoulder, which if anything is going to be made worse by having extra weight and having a concussion. And unless all 10 of those pounds went to his neck and turned him into the throat goat of the NFL, he is still going to have those head injuries. That being said, I don't dislike this team. I think it's very good. If Richardson can stay healthy, I could definitely see them making a playoff push in the crowded AFC. I'm concerned about his health. I'm going to predict accordingly. I think the Colts win 7 games, miss out in the playoffs. Good roster held back by a much worse backup quarterback and a starting quarterback who is a big injury risk.
I am a big believer in the Colts in 2024 with the combination of Anthony Richardson and what Shane Steichen brings to an offense. I mean, last year, Anthony Richardson, I think, only played in 2 games. They were on their 4 games. They're on their backup quarterback. Jonathan Taylor missed chunks of the season, and they almost made it to the playoffs. So Jonathan Taylor, according to all knowledge that is known right now, is healthy to start the year. Their receiver room is improved over last year, adding Adonai Mitchell to the room. They added Leatu Latu to that defense, which is going to make the defense better. So overall, I think it is a massive improvement, an influx of talent from what we had with the Colts last season. Health especially playing a big factor in that. But when you take a look at predicting at how many wins they're going to have next year, I think some Colts fans, I know Colts fans are not going to be happy with Isaiah's prediction. I don't think they're going to be very happy with my prediction, but it is the AFC, loaded with talent. My prediction's a little bit on the lower end of where I think their ceiling truly is. I have them going 9-8. I think they're going to squeak into the playoffs. And I have the AFC South as one of the better divisions in the NFL, so there's that to take into account too, outside of the Titans.
9-8, I don't like the implication of them making the playoffs. Either you put 3 teams from the AFC South in the playoffs, or you left out our next team. I briefly want to talk about Gardner Minshew. To call him a backup quarterback feels like a bit of a understatement. He's going to be the Raiders starter in 2024. He was a Pro Bowl alternate. He played very well. He probably, in terms of just the 1 year, was better than Anthony Richardson would have been for the Colts. I'm not disagreeing with the Colts' decision to start Richardson early. You clearly need to get him polished. If you think he's the franchise, he needs to get those snaps. But if they were starting Gardner Minshew week 1, he got the reins to the offense the entire time, they probably win one more game and make the playoffs. But moving on to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And a lot's being said about, oh, Trevor Lawrence isn't this, that, or the other. The team is so bad, yada, yada, yada. No more Calvin Ridley. If they can stay healthy, they can be a premier contender. If they can even get sort of lucky and have their offensive line sort of shape up, they can be a real threat in the AFC. This is a good team. Trevor Lawrence is a good top 10 quarterback. They are a quality receiving room now with the addition of Brian Thomas. They have a devastating front 7. Their secondary got better in the offseason. I have a lot of faith in the Jaguars. I got a lot of faith in Doug Peterson. I think this is a playoff team. A 10-7 team, a winning team. If you think Trevor Lawrence isn't the guy because how he performed in the back half of 2023, you are either being willfully ignorant of his injuries or you do not know how to properly watch and assess football games. Trevor Lawrence is a great quarterback. This is a good roster, the best roster he has had in his career, excluding that first year at Clemson. And I really do have faith in the Jaguars. Not only are they going to make the playoffs, they're going to win a playoff game this year.
I think great quarterback, from what we've seen so far, is a bit of an overstatement in the context of playing in the NFL. Obviously, he was a phenomenal college quarterback, but this is the NFL, and from what we've seen from Trevor Lawrence thus far, if he's only 20% better than he's ever been in his NFL career, the contract that they just paid him is not going to be worth it. But he's still a very good quarterback, and I love what their roster brings this season. Adding Brian Thomas on the outside, Gabe Davis, and then you have Christian Kirk in the slot and Evan Ingram at tight end, who I know was memed earlier in his career, but now with the Jaguars and
this is the Giants fan talking. No one has said a thing bad about Evan Ingram in the past 5 years.
I said memed early in his career.
We don't even need to mention that. The drops aren't a thing anymore. That was left with Eli Manning.
Now with the Jaguars, he's quietly become one of the most reliable tight ends in the NFL behind some of those maybe bigger names in Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Sam Laporta last year. He's been a very good tight end, and him and Christian Kirk being able to operate operate over the middle of the field, kind of from the slot and big slot positions, and then they have two guys who can win on the outside. I think that complements each other perfectly. And then, of course, they have Travis Etienne out of the backfield. And when it comes to the offensive line, adding Mitch Morse at center, you have Anton Harrison in year 2, who you hope is going to be better than he was as a rookie. I like what the Jaguars have going on offense, and I also have them going 10-7.
Something worth noting, in my predictions, I have them starting 0-4 because they play the Dolphins week 1 in Miami. The Dolphins always start hot. They play the Browns next. We know how good the Browns defense is. They play the Bills in Buffalo the next week, and then they play on the road against the Texans. That is a brutal first 4 games. If they go 0-4, regardless of how they look, I could see things going belly up. There is a doomsday situation in this record. I think they can pull out of an 0-4 record and still make the playoffs, but if things go wrong, if heads start rolling in that organization, this could fast turn into a 5-win team very quickly. There is a lot of boom or bust here.
They'll beat the Browns.
No, they won't.
Yeah, they will.
Be
The Browns
serious.
are not good. Be serious.
Tristan, you need to compose yourself. You have lost your sanity, your composure. Whenever we speak of the AFC North, you are not able to be a grown, unbiased man. We'll get to them next. That's the next video, but do better. Speaking of doing better, the Houston Texans in 2024 are the most exciting team in football. They added Daniil Hunter, they added Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell will be back. Nico Collins will be able to operate without the distraction of 2 cornerbacks constantly on him. And CJ Stroud going into year 2 is a tantalizing prospect. Their defense will be better, their offense will be good, and they're only going to win 1 more game from last season. I think it's going to be a good team, maybe even a great team, but I don't think they're the top dog in the AFC like some people are painting them to be. I think there are 3 better teams who will beat them in the playoffs if push really comes to shove. Still a good team, still exciting. I don't need to explain too much why I think they're going to be great. Everyone seems to know, but I just like to note they're good. They're not that good. They are not ready to compete just yet, but they're close though.
You said they're good quite a few times there.
Oh, would you like me to say they're bad? 12-5, bad team. We're talking about the Pittsburgh Steelers from a few years ago, a bad 12-5 team.
I mean, from a talent perspective, we all know the Texans are absolutely loaded on the offensive side of the ball when it comes to the skill positions. Stephon Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. They added Joe Mixon to the mix there. They have Laramie Tunsil, a franchise left tackle. CJ Stroud was phenomenal as a rookie. So they have a lot going on offense. And then, of course, they added Daniil Hunter opposite Will Anderson on the defensive side of the ball, which in the second year of D'Amico Ryans' system, with more talent, at least from what we can tell right now, you also think that's going to be better. And my record prediction isn't so much a reflection of how I feel about their team when it comes to talent. It's more of a reflection about how I feel about their specific division, because I have 3 teams making the playoffs from that division. You always call me stupid regardless of my predictions.
3 AFC South teams making the playoffs. Oh.
The people weren't ready for it, but it's going to happen. I have them going 11-6, winning the AFC South. That's what I got for the Texans.
You mentioned the defense. I did not harp on too much about that. I think the combination of losing Grenard and Cashman kind of mitigates the addition of Daniil Hunter to a certain extent. They lost a very good linebacker and they lost a very good defensive end who had double-digit sacks for him last year. Will Hunter be able to match both of their production with the addition of the new linebacker they got? Maybe. I'm not so sure about that. They're going to be relying on Will Anderson, though, to take that leap, that year 2 step, to become a double-digit sack guy, to become a dominant force in the run game. That's what needs to happen for their defense to improve. It's not automatically improved just by adding Daniil Hunter. That's why I only got them winning 12 games, despite them clearly being a more talented team in terms of the big names from last season.
Well, you got them winning more games than I have them winning.
Well, yeah, you got 3 teams from the AFC South making the playoffs. I don't know how your brain came up with that. I assume you just took a few wins here and there from actual good teams and just put them on the Colts. Those were our thoughts on the AFC South. Tell Tristan why he's woefully mistaken about the Colts making the playoffs, or me why I'm horribly incorrect and the Texans are actually going to win 17 games. If you're still here, please like, share, subscribe. We appreciate your support, and we will see you in the next video.